and all that sort of thing. We're going to talk about them next because we're talking about weather.
Hi there, this video is live.
Record rain.
Astronomical, historical.
So
UK weather forecast, UK 2022. Like this video, please a thumbs up.
But we're going to talk about some amazing statistics and facts as far as rain is concerned. Stay with us,
AM this morning.
I promise you they're really interesting.
And it is
it's not been a great
25th of March, 2022, guys.
Maybe Justin,
enjoy this video.
Could do a little better in a moment. This is a volunteer army of 16,000 people that have helped recover millions of historic UK rainfall records.
See, it actually is interesting.
See, anyway, I told you.
Yeah.
It's a unique project from the Met Office. Go on, you do better.
It was 2 years ago this week, just as the first COVID lockdown began, actually, that people stepped up to help digitise more than 200 years' worth of handwritten rainfall entries.
Well, the data will be used to improve the accuracy of weather forecasts, give experts a better understanding of climate change. So let's speak to our climate editor, Justin Roller, who can tell us more. Justin, good morning. So I've been looking at some of these stats, and they give us a real insight into the wettest year on record, Victorian times and the floods and how they dealt with it. It's really interesting, but I'm going to let you tell the story.
It's really interesting. Thanks for that introduction. And I'm here at Reading University's weather station, where they've got all kinds of equipment for measuring the weather. They've got things that measure the clouds, things that measure sunshine. There are even devices that measure the electrical energy in the atmosphere. And of course, weather enthusiasts have been taking measurements, collecting data on the weather for hundreds of years. And that archive is really important, because the better we understand the past, the better able we are to predict the future, as I discovered when I visited the Met Office archives down in Exeter.
Oh boy, oh boy.
This room contains something unique.
Cool.
The UK's National Weather Memory. It holds tens of thousands of records of our country's weather dating back hundreds of years. But how do you digitise this huge trove of often handwritten rainfall records?
Good question.
Back in about 2018, we'd identified this data as a really rich new source of rainfall data. And we knew we wanted to do something with it. So the first thing we did was make sure that we scanned it all, got it all digitised.
But there was a huge amount, 66,000 pages, a total of more than 5 million individual entries.
And when they were keyed, that was all done 4 times for quality control purposes. So that actually makes over 20 million individual observations being keyed. And then when you add all of the other data, like the name of the place, the name of the observer, we're up to 100 million keystrokes.
Well, it's a huge effort.
Absolutely vast.
It wasn't something Catherine, with her tiny archive team, could ever do. And then came lockdown. Suddenly, there were millions of people with nothing to do. But how to get them making the weather? So I'm joined here by Ed Hawkins, who is a climate scientist here at Reading University. And Ed, you had a cunning plan for this vast trove of data that you had.
We realised that the only way we were going to rescue this data and make it useful to science once again was to recruit an army of volunteers to help us transcribe these handwritten records into useful data.
No, but really cleverly, you'd realised this way before lockdown, hadn't you?
We could see lockdown was coming, and we thought people are going to have a bit more spare time, going to want a distraction from what was going on in the world, and so we got everything ready for that eventuality, yes.
So lockdown, let me remember, lockdown happened on the 23rd of March. On the 26th, you said, listen, we need people to help us with this giant citizen science project. What was the response like?
We expected it was going to take months to transcribe these 5 million observations, but the response from the public was extraordinary, and we achieved all of that in just 16 days.
Wow.
Amazing, yes.
And Catherine Ross, the archivist, was saying it's 100 million keystrokes.
100 million keystrokes, 16,000 volunteers in 16 days.
And got all that data into the Met Office computers. Now tell me, why is the data, what does it tell us, and why is that so important?
So we spent the last 18 months since then ensuring the data is good quality and making sure we know exactly where the observations were taken, and a group of volunteers have helped us with that task as well. And now we can hand the data over to the Met Office to integrate into the National Rainfall Database, and then they can then use that to map out the variations in rainfall going back to 1836 now. And what that tells us is we can look at these extreme months and years from the past, extreme floods and extreme droughts and learn about those to better plan our infrastructure for the future.
Because there is a rule the government works to, which is we need to plan for 100-year floods. Now, we only had just over 100 years of data, didn't we? Now we've got almost 200 years of data. How does that help us understand what the future might hold for us?
So that data is invaluable because, as you say, we need to plan our flood defences to deal with what the weather might throw at us. And so the more data we have, the more extreme events that we can see in our past enables us to make better planning for the future.
So this is how we protect our cities, our towns and cities better. We build infrastructure that can deal with the changing climate, the changing weather that we expect in the future. Now, but some of the records, the rainfall records changed, didn't they, as a result of the data that you managed to put in and see, you know, in its kind of glory for the first time.
That's right. So we've seen some extraordinary extreme months in the past. We've got the November and December 1852, where we had enormous floods across much of southern England. The driest year on record is now 1855, when it was 1887 before. So yes, many of the records have changed.
And that will help us, as we've said, understand the future, predict the future better. That is all now in the Met Office computer.
So, you know, we know the temperatures around the UK have warmed, and that is also changing our rainfall patterns. And so we're seeing more extreme weather now, and so we need to plan to make sure that we're resilient to that weather.
Ed Hawkins, Professor of Climate Change here at Reading University. Thank you very much indeed. And back to you in the studio, where I hope it's a sunny day as it is here at Reading.
So if you like this video, please send a thumbs up. You subscribe to my YouTube channel on Sunday with the force speed videos, quite fast about the needs, the many. That way, then you please enjoy this video, guys, of the weather forecast, historical video. Bye, everyone.